Hey guys, Chickadee Maine, Deboo.com with a Deboo.com surf forecast update. This forecast update effective around 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, February 3rd, 2017. And guys, lots to talk about in this forecast update. I hope you'll bear with us and ride it out. But if you've been following our updates, we talked about the North Atlantic set to explode was our last update. And so far, we've seen one intense hurricane force low, another one forecast, and another one coming. And we're witnessing probably and likely the lowest pressures the North Atlantic has seen season to date. And it's right on time. We're approaching the dead of winter. February is a short month, but these hurricane force lows up in the North Atlantic has turned the Atlantic in a predominantly westerly swell component, and that looks like it's getting ready to switch back and become a more positive for swell production over in the Western Atlantic. So think about it, if you will, a period of westerly swell heading over towards the East Atlantic, and the pendulum is about to swing back the other way. Here's a look at the latest satellite imagery and the short-term forecast. Area of low pressure forecast to develop here just east of the Outer Banks and rapidly intensify into a storm over the next 24 to 48 hours. High pressure developing in behind, and that's going to set up some northerly flow now coming off the Outer Banks aimed at Puerto Rico, centered over Bermuda. The latest 48-hour wind wave forecast out of the Tropical Atlantic Forecast Branch showing seas increasing 10 to 12 feet in a northerly swell component over the next 48 hours. Looking at the latest 96-hour surface map, that area of low pressure moving off the Outer Banks is going to move up in here toward the North Atlantic as a hurricane force low, 941 millibar, just to the southeast of the tip of Greenland. This is the second hurricane force low that is now just passed in here west of Ireland. The previous one had seas in excess of 55 feet. This one here incoming, I think seas are forecast excess 35 feet as of now. And then look back over here towards Nova Scotia. You see another rapidly intensifying storm here. So what happens here is, think about this in flow now, guys. If we were to put this into motion, you have this hurricane force low spinning like this. Well, it's dragging this tail, and you'll see it in the model run here in just a few moments. It's dragging this tail, and so the westerly flow component of the jet stream drags in another area of low pressure in here. What we're going to be watching for in the long-term forecast is, as this moves up into the North Atlantic, another area of low pressure gets drug in here towards the southeast U.S., and the GFS model has been consistent last 4 to 5 runs of an intense area of low pressure kicking off the southeast U.S. coast, setting up a possible major swell event. Now, the European model is not showing it at the moment. It's hinting at it, but it's not showing it. We'll show you that in the model in just a few moments. Here's a look at the latest 96-hour swell forecast, and this looks to be the next shot or the end to this westerly swell component before the Atlantic switches back in the other way. 96-hour swell forecast showing 15 to 18 second periods fanning out across the entire East Atlantic in west and northwest swell. And then whatever's coming this weekend, guys, if we focus down in here towards Florida, this is that, if you go back to our last update, we talked about blocking high setting up in the East Atlantic. This is another area of high pressure that's going to move out into the East Atlantic and set up another block that gives hope for that area of low pressure to move into the southeast states in about 7 to 8 days and then kick off here east of Florida. Looking at the latest energy, or where the GFS is picking up on, this is that gale that is off the western U.S. coast. So right now, this is producing lots of snowfall, heavy precipitation into the western U.S. And this, as it spins, so the flow is like this. There's a strong westerly jet. Let me adjust this over a little further. If we were to put this into motion, the flow would be like this, the jet stream, like this, and from like this. So when this breaks apart, what the model is suggesting, that a piece of energy is going to get sucked down just like this towards Texas and the Gulf Coast and get deposited right in here on the southeast. We'll show you that in the latest run of the GFS. This is last night's run of the OOZ. We'll put it into motion for you, and you'll see the area of low pressure just east of the Outer Banks on up past Newfoundland as rapidly intensifying area of low pressure into the North Atlantic. 950 millibar the GFS shows in the next 72 hours. And then as we advance the model for you a little bit more, here comes this secondary low and the next hurricane force low moving over Newfoundland. Now a 938 millibar low, some of the deepest, lowest pressures season to date, southeast of the tip of Greenland. But then look here, like we talked about just a few moments ago. Look at this tail of this front, how this is wrapping in here like this. This next one comes in behind it, and then watch over here towards the southeast. Here comes that drop. Let me back that up for you. Notice how this kind of drops in from the northwest and then over Florida and then kicks off the Outer Banks. This is intense area of northeast winds, northeast fetch, 35, 40 knots, maybe gusts to 50 in here. All in this, and so this flow is like this. Now look at this blocking high out here in the East Atlantic. So you have rotation like this with the winds. That's setting up probably east-southeast trade wind swell of 10 to 12 feet. If I'm not mistaken, if we go back and look at the wind wave forecast and drop down in here, this is east of the islands in here, guys. Seas are increasing 10 to 12 feet. And east-southeast trade. So it looks like that positive. You go back and look at the swell forecast map and down in here towards Florida. Again, here's that area of high pressure we talked about. That's here now. 1033 millibar omega high blocking. So when this tries to move off, it can't. And then eventually it'll end up going up into the North Atlantic. We'll advance the model a little further. And this is way outside of 10 days, guys, that we get to here. So let me back it up to at the 10-day mark, and that's the 10-day mark. Now, to be fair, this is the Euro, and this is starting on next weekend. This is next Saturday, but next Saturday, the Euro model, twin blocking highs in here, east-southeast trade with northerly flow into here. Then it develops an area of low pressure just to the northeast of Puerto Rico, backside of Bermuda, and that'll tighten up some northeast fetch as well before it tries to develop that. So a much weaker solution, guys, but there's no reason why we can't see this coming up in the upcoming forecast. Lots of time to watch. Stay tuned for the next update.